I'm
This
here.
is like episode 9 for us.
Episode 9.
I think. Wait. Okay. Take it back. Episode 8 is what we're on. Welcome back, friends, to episode 208. With Weekly Wednesday with Lindsay and Amy. I'm Amy.
And I'm Lindsay.
And it is great to see you all, your lovely faces through the interwebs today. So just a shout out to our Wednesday walking sticks.
Huh. Well, shout out to you, walking sticks.
And so today is a little bit of a different video. Lindsay and I thought it would be a really great idea to check in with one another, play a little catch up. If it was going to be a game, it would be called Quarantine Highlights.
Quarantine Highlights. I love it.
Lindsay, I'll let you go first. That's been going on.
Yeah. Ongoing wedding planning. It's just weird because Matthew and I knew we would be planning in a pandemic. And so in some regards, it helps make our decisions very focused and we kind of know what's at hand. But it's weird nonetheless. I tried on wedding dresses with a mask on. It's just weird. The other thing that I will share, my coach referred to me as Katniss. Exactly. I mean, and you know, all the other things, but those are just some of the things to share. What about you?
Yeah, so I've been doing a lot of baking and biking and gardening. I've been feuding with the robins in the yard, mostly because they want to know what I'm doing at all times, and they come along behind me and they eat all the earthworms, and then I feel bad because it's not the earthworms' fault that I was digging in the dirt. And then the other realization that we've had is my sister, I don't know where she saw this, but she realized what my laugh sounded like. What is something new that you've been doing that you think will last past quarantine?
I've been walking every day. And it started because I couldn't be in my house anymore. So going for a long walk and like going different routes and, you know, seeing different parts of the neighborhood. But I'm like, now it's kind of like, oh, I need to get out and do my walk today. It's just been a good way to be a part of the city, even if we feel like removed from it. So I think, you know, that has become a part. We're like a Jane of all trades. So what one thing are you going to keep?
I know, because we haven't even finished finding out what I'm going to get into this quarantine.
Yeah.
I just learned how to make mozzarella cheese. And so that will be one thing that will never leave.
Friends, can I tell you, what are they? Walking sticks? Walking sticks.
Yeah, they're walking sticks this week.
She called and told me this, and I was like, our friendship just got upgraded. Okay. Okay. You are ready to freaking Laura Ingalls Wilder and get out there and no, I think it's good to name what we've learned and what we want to keep as we re-enter the world. But I think this whole season now, 4 months or however long it's been, also makes us think about what's been challenging. So what's been challenging for you?
Yeah, I think there's several layers to that. I think many of us went into 2020 with plans, like things that we thought were going to happen. And I have had a continual reminder, like as time continues to pass, other things are not happening.
Right.
And so I think the biggest challenge for me is, yes, we have to adapt to our current circumstance, but we also have to deal with the disappointment and the grief of what we thought was going to be this year. And just like as a example, I had a really high probability of doing an artist residency in Hawaii for a month right now.
Wow.
And so as I go through this month of like beautiful weather and
Yeah.
being outside, and I'm like, I could have been with volcanoes. Like
Yeah.
there's that layer. But then I
Right.
think you start putting on top of that just the immense grief of a global pandemic and
Mm-hmm.
what that has kind of added to the tension of I live in a household with vulnerable individuals. I think the news of just racial protests and the Black Lives Matters movement of the last couple weeks, like I have found it a challenge to figure out how to process
Yeah.
the amount of information that that is coming at us from the news, plus the overwhelming sadness and injustice
Mm-hmm.
of current events.
Mm-hmm.
What has been the biggest challenge for you?
Yes, what you said. I think initially living alone was really hard.
Mm,
Um, and I told my mom up front, I said, "You're allowed to come to my house and I'm allowed to come to yours," because I know I would have made it, but it was really isolating. I think it's been challenging to be um the steward of, or really a sojourner with, folks who've been recommended for ordination and licensing and commissioning.
mm-hmm.
Um, knowing that their service will not be like any year they've ever witnessed at annual conference. And then I would say in the past week and a half, my heart just breaks. Richmond, not unlike Minneapolis, erupted last Saturday night. Erupted. To drive down Monument Avenue, which I've done, I can't even tell you how many times, and to see fluorescent graffiti and to see more people gawking at those statues than I've ever seen. I just drove down and I was just sobbing in my car. Um, and because I love this city
Yeah.
so much. And I hurt with the people who hurt, right? And for me, Black Lives Matter is very real to who I am. And so I think I find myself in this neutral space of being biracial and wanting to advocate and be present, but also kind of saying to my white friends, I can't be your processor right now. I can't do it. You know, you and I talked a little bit about this, but it's the long game. It's not just the short game. And so it's thinking about 6 months from now, when the protests or the energy might feel different, or look a little less sexy and less exciting. Are you still willing to um, throw yourself in the front of injustice for the sake of justice?
Yeah.
Um, and then I think about my mom, because George Floyd called out for his mom, and I'm pretty sure I would do the same. I'm pretty sure I would do the same. So it's a heaviness that I um, have the healthy ways to process it and sit with it, but it's also, this week was giving myself permission of like, nope, I can't be that person for you this week, friend. So
Yeah, I think that's been a challenge too. As
mm-hmm.
I think I felt it even today, where I want my friends of different races, regardless of ethnicity or race, to know how much I adore them for their stories and the diverse backgrounds that, like, I my life is enriched from your story, from the story of other people I've encountered. But then trying to like gauge where all your friends are at, and what they need from you, like, do you need me to reach out to you? Do you need time? Do you need, like, I think that's been one of the hardest things, because I mean, there is so much posting and information on social media, but
Right. Right.
but we know that some of the long-term work is in our own hearts, but then in our own individual relationships with
Right.
with people around us.
And your circles of influence. I mean, I think that for me right now, that is the most important, that you have, because I'm talking to you, I'll use you as an example, that you have, as you feel comfortable. And I know there's this whole discomfort comfort thing, but when it comes to calling out close friends and family members who are white, when you are comfortable and bold and courageous to have those conversations, to me, that is the impact.
Yeah.
It's not the only thing, but for folks of privilege to talk to their circles of influence, for me, that's the work.
Yeah.
That's happening alongside other things, but yeah, I just think it's about relationship. It always has been, right?
So in talking about this and thinking through just the depth of sadness and anger and all the emotions, where have you seen the most hope or seen God moving?
I mean, the fact that the statue's coming down. I deeply love history, and I know we're going to get people who are going to disagree with me, but that's what makes us the body of Christ. But, you know, knowing one's place in history and how their place in history contributed to the whole picture, for better or worse, is where it is in history. And so I am one, again, Richmond native, I am one that thought they should have been brought down a long time ago. And so for me, that is a moment of hope. I stood at the Lee statue this week. A bunch of clergy had gathered and stood at the statue, and kids were, I mean, it's a park. It's technically a park. And kids were scootering around the base of it and playing in the yard. And that was a hope for people coming together in this city and being in relationship together.
I was gardening today. Story of my life. I don't know, this past week it became almost like a spiritual practice, right? Like, dig out the weeds, like, make this space new, make it beautiful, like, take what has been dormant and bring life. And so I was pulling weeds this morning, and I was sitting there, and it wasn't supposed to rain yesterday, but then we got a storm around 7 p.m. and it was like heavy rains. And then it might have rained again last night in the middle of the night.
I think it did.
Yeah. So this morning when I was out there weeding, the soil was really loose because of the rain. And so I'm like pulling weeds out, and they're coming out pretty easy. And it was like, I started to get this vision of these protests and these things that people are speaking up is this heavy rainstorm we didn't see coming, but it's here. And then
we didn't want to see coming.
Right. Because we like kept checking, like, oh, I'm not, like, I better water the plants today because it's not going to rain. So the heavy rains come and the soil is loosened. And so the vision was like, we are the soil. And so because our voices have risen up, there's a level of looseness that we are now willing to have conversations, and that new life can come from, like, we are pulling the weeds, and new life can come from this. And I mean, I've been pulling weeds for like weeks now and had no sort of like spiritual encounter with Jesus until this morning. So
Adam and Eve might have had the same thought, but I think the looseness is it's a looseness and it's also a vulnerability.
Yeah.
I can't tell you how many people are like, I didn't know what to say, so I didn't say anything. The good Lord gave you a voice. You know, I think a certain level of boldness comes from that loosening of, okay, we got to do this. We have to, we have to have these conversations.
And
And
it's
it
not
is,
pretty. It's like the pulling of
no,
the weeds creates more mess before you get it all cleaned up.
right. And I think that's where we have to sit for a while.
Yeah.
Um, and I think, again, for the long game, that's going to be difficult.
Yeah.
Not impossible. I think that's a sign of hope too, right? Like your weeds don't totally undo everything you've done to build that garden for the past couple of weeks.
Yeah.
Um, but it is a part of the story.
I think that'll preach. Well, friends, thanks for being along today. We know it's definitely a different type of video. So to all our walking sticks,
We appreciate you and just love you and praying for you as you kind of have these conversations too.
so be safe, be vulnerable, and be bold.
Mm-hmm.
And we will see you back here next Wednesday at noon.
All right. Bye, guys.
Oh
That
my
was
gosh.
good, Amy. Oh, you.
All right.
I was trying to get my life.
My ultimate quarantine goal for the summer is to make caprese salad.
Sure.
I was like, no, not Muttley, no.
But I'm gonna make that what plays when you call me.